General Hospital spoilers suggest that Ferncliff may be waiting for Willow Tate. Will Willow crack following Drew Kane's next round of manipulation and be imprisoned as a result? Willow went off the rails in GH's July 29th episode with her tantrum at Carly Spencer's house. It left Michael Corinthos believing Willow was out of control and surely not in the correct mental state to be around the children. Willow will strive to get her act together and become someone Michael can trust around the kids, but she has been dealing with mental health issues for quite some time. Willow was virtually catatonic when she initially lost custody, and she still appears to be a shell of herself at times. Willow could use some mental help, and many fans are wondering if a spell at Ferncliff is in her future. If Drew continues on his usual course of action, Willow's situation may worse before improving. Curtis Ashford had some concerns in a recent conversation with Nina Reeves and Portia Robinson. Curtis is concerned that Drew would influence Willow into a reunion, because he understands how he operates. Unfortunately, Drew has the ability to make that happen. Drew might use the fact that Willow is Daisy Gilmore's stalker against her, and try to force her to rekindle their relationship. Drew may seek to rekindle their marriage by using the Daisy stalker issue to blackmail Willow into it. However, given Willow's unstable mental state, such a maneuver may backfire. If this pattern continues, Willow may reach her breaking point. Willow's sanity may be hanging by a thread, but what happens if Drew smashes what's left and forces her to lose it completely? It's easy to envision Willow snapping and lashing out at Drew. We could witness a criminal twist in which Willow's rage becomes deadly, potentially endangering Drew's life. If that's the case, Willow may reach rock bottom and eventually arrive at Ferncliff. Do you think Willow should be locked up and given proper mental health care? According to General Hospital teasers, Willow will receive more tough news, so stay tuned for updates on all of the mounting drama. Laura Collins counsels Rocco Falconeri, while Brooke Lynn Quartermaine and Maxie Jones catch up. Willow Tate also gains a clearer perspective, while Drew Kane attempts to negotiate with Michael Corinthos. Laura counsels Rocco. Rocco visits Laura's office and asks for help with his parents, mentioning that he has spoken with Liesl Obrecht. Laura is taken aback. The boy likes her, thinks she's eccentric, and claims that when he was with Liesl, his parents responded adversely. Laura emphasizes that their relationship with Liesl is complex. Rocco still wants to meet with her, but is concerned how his parents would respond. They discuss Liesl's history, and Laura believes that individuals may change. Liesl looks to have changed, but Lulu Spencer was not present to see it. He tells his grandmother a childhood story she had never heard before, and Laura encourages him to share it with his parents. It could be beneficial. General Hospital recap July 30th. Willow's shocking realization and Drew's desperate plea to Michael. Brooke Lynn and Maxie catch up. Lulu interrupts, and they clash at the Metro Court pool. Brooke Lynn informs Maxie that she never intended for Rocco to see the Brit file. Maxie informs her that Liesl has returned. Lulu interrupts and blames BLQ. They resume their dispute, and Lulu lashes out at her for involving liars and crooks in her son's life. BLQ tells her that she did not tell him anything and argues that they should have been honest with their son. She holds Lulu responsible for the predicament. Maxie begs them to stop making accusations since she believes it is reasonable for Rocco and Liesl to want to see each other. All Lulu sees is that she took 7 months from her child's life. Lulu receives a call from Laura and agrees to visit. She departs. General Hospital recap July 30th. Willow's shocking realization and Drew's desperate plea to Michael. Kai catches up with Joss while Rick meets with Nina nearby. Kai Taylor notices Jocelyn Jax, who expresses her anger at him, implying that he may now realize that choosing Drew over Trina Robinson was a mistake. Kai claims that he valued his values above all else. Joss responds that he can retain his principles in Drew, but not anybody else. At the tables, Rick Lansing wonders why Nina Reeves wants to meet with him. She asks Rick to assist Willow in obtaining custody of the children. Nina requests that he maintain silent about her involvement. He reminds her that her secrets are what led them to this scenario, which Nina will consider. Trina pays a visit to Curtis' workplace after receiving a message from him to do so. They discuss Kai and Drew. She learns that Willow has ended her relationship with Drew after uncovering Nina's romance with him. Both of them feel sympathy for everyone involved. Curtis wants her to speak with Kai to see if he feels any guilt about Drew. However, Trina has moved on. Trust has been utterly destroyed. Curtis seeks to stress that, in Kai's opinion, he acted correctly. He cautions her against breaking relations and to consider the possibility of forgiveness. General Hospital recap July 30th. Willow's shocking realization and Drew's desperate plea to Michael. Willow sees things more clearly. Willow walks down the stairs at Elizabeth's house, her vision clearer after a good night's sleep. She understands that traveling to Carly Spencer's was a mistake, as is her relationship with Drew. Liz invites her to stay for a while, and they discuss how Nina was going to confess. Willow admits it feels like a repetition of Shiloh and Harmony. She promised herself she would not let people dictate her life, yet here she is again, wishing she had seen the warning signs when Drew was after her. That's called love bombing, Liz says. Willow realizes she let Drew wreck everything. Nina arrives with some clothing for Willow, and Liz gives them some space. Willow and Nina talk. Nina begins to cry and acknowledges that she realizes how difficult things are. Willow describes Nina's behavior as revolting. Nina offers her love and support for Willow, which Willow rejects. She is determined to retake her life, so Nina apologizes, but Willow is unconcerned. If Nina had been honest from the beginning, none of this would have happened. She blames both her mother and Drew for the loss of her children and directs Nina to the exit. Nina contacts Rick Lansing for help with Willow, but conversing with her yielded no results. Rick drops by Liz's to talk to Willow. Rick returns later and tells Willow that he couldn't stop thinking about how unhappy she was the night before. He offers to help her get the kids back for free, without disclosing that Nina is secretly supporting him. For the time being, he says they will wait until October. Her credibility is shot. They will dismiss her outbursts as emotional stress rather than something that happens on a regular basis, claiming Michael would win if the hearing took place tomorrow. They are currently developing her case to demonstrate to Michael her ability to follow the regulations. By the time he leaves, she is happy, overwhelmed, and in need of a walk. General Hospital recap July 30th. Willow's shocking realization and Drew's desperate plea to Michael. Drew pays a visit to Michael at the Q Mansion, telling him that his relationship with Willow is over, but he still wants to fight for her. He asks for grace in his victory. He begs Michael to let Willow stay with her children, but Michael refuses since he cannot risk it right now. Drew offers to plead, but Michael says that Willow was out of control last night, and Drew feels guilty because she acted the same way in court. It bothered him, but he begs Michael to give her another chance. Michael wonders why he should ever trust Drew again. He immediately recalls Drew forbidding Willow from visiting him while he was in Germany. He knows Drew bribed them to keep her away. Drew continues to plead. Isaiah cautions Portia. Drew wishes to focus on the future and do things differently. Michael believes Willow may have had a future if he hadn't fouled things up. Drew tries to encourage Michael to do the right thing for his children, but Michael is not convinced. Meanwhile at JH, Isaiah Gannon warns Portia Robinson not to resign. Her mentoring is what drew him in, and they both admit that they will miss working together. Brooklyn and Maxie catch up. Nina arrives and Kai tries to talk to Trina. Back at the pool, Trina observes Kai while Brooklyn thanks Maxie for sticking up for her against Lulu. Maxie understands both perspectives. Later, after BLQ leaves, Nina arrives and they discuss the wedding fiasco. Maxie tells her that she warned her about it, and she wonders why Nina has decided to be honest now. Nina suspects Willow may have done something extremely heinous. If this is revealed, she believes she may lose her children for good. Meanwhile, Kai approaches Trina and says he stands by his conduct, which irritates Trina. Even if he felt regret, it would not change the situation. She can't get over his behavior. Irritated, she walks away and runs into Joss. Lulu meets with Laura in her office and expresses her concerns regarding Brooklyn. Laura offers information about Rocco's visit. She worries her child is making a bad decision, but Laura says he is just interested and has been behaving well around Liesel. The more Lulu attempts to keep it off limits, the more he will pursue it and remove himself from her. Lulu finds it difficult to relive that period of her life only to satisfy her son's curiosity. Laura sympathizes but acknowledges that every child eventually views their parents as flawed individuals. Despite this, Lulu refers to her as a hero, and Laura assures her that she has overcome their past and would handle this issue as well. Laura encourages Lulu to support Rocco. General Hospital recap July 30th. Willow's shocking realization and Drew's desperate plea to Michael. Portia updates Curtis. Willow pleads her case with Michael. Drew looks for Willow at Liz's. Portia approaches Curtis and informs him of her resignation. Curtis believes it is unnecessary. As long as Drew does not discover he revealed the truth about Nina to Willow, they are safe. Meanwhile, Rocco meets Brooklyn at the pool and expresses gratitude for essentially informing him that he had another mother. Willow goes to the Q mansion to apologize to Michael and shares that she feels like she's finally coming up for air. He is pleased but regrets how the situation unfolded. Ignoring Rick's urging, she asks if she can see the kids because she has completed his requirements. Drew arrives by Liz's house and asks to see Willow. While they discuss the wedding, Liz accidentally brings up Curtis telling Willow the truth. Willow had been trying to keep it together for so long. She had faced every struggle, betrayal, and manipulation with quiet strength. But when Drew's plots piled on top of one another, something inside her frayed. The lady who had previously strolled calmly into operations and held Michael's hand through courtroom pandemonium now trembled behind closed doors, unable to breathe, think, or trust. At first it was subtle, small breaches that could be filled in with explanations. Drew insisted that he was merely trying to help, that his influence over Michael's decisions, and the family's destiny, was solely for the greater benefit. Willow wanted to believe him. She tried. But paradoxes accumulated like dust in the crevices of her life. Drew deflected her queries. When she needed honesty, he provided strategy. His form of protection began to feel like control, and Willow could feel herself falling beneath the surface. Michael was the first to notice it, the way she'd zone out during discussions, how her voice quivered when she mentioned the children, and how her eyes glanced to Drew as if expecting him to answer for her. She had little sleep at night. She would awaken from her restless nightmares and walk silently through the home. Sometimes she'd just stand in the kitchen, staring at nothing and clutching a cup she never drank from. The warmth that previously distinguished her was fading, and no one could pretend differently. The final straw occurred on a wet Friday afternoon. Michael had taken the kids to the park to give her some space. He thought she needed to rest. She wasn't resting, though. She was unraveling. Drew arrived unannounced, as he often did now, and brushed by her as if he owned the place. He provided paperwork, ideas, and the latest movements he thought Michael should make. He portrayed things as necessary, business, family, all interconnected, but Willow recognized the truth. These were power grabs masquerading as strategies. Her husband's allegiance was slowly eroding. She told him to go. Initially, everything was calm, but Drew refused to go. He urged she listen and understand. He implied she was naive, emotional, and unable to comprehend the bigger picture. And that's when something in Willow snapped. Her voice rose, not in screams but with crisp, precise precision. "You're not allowed to do this anymore, Drew." Drew's smile faded. "You don't get to judge what's best for my family." For once, he did not have a smooth response ready. Willow moved closer, the mug still in her hand and her knuckles white. Her demeanor shook but her eyes blazed. "I understand what you've done. To Michael. To me. I am not blind. I've just tried not to see it because I wanted to believe you were trying to assist. But you aren't. You're helping yourself." "You always have," Drew admitted. He attempted to pivot, twisting her words into sentiment. But Willow was done negotiating. Michael got home to find the door open and Drew gone. Willow lay curled on the couch, knees tucked to her chest, eyes vacant. She didn't answer when he called her name. It was as if she had vanished inside herself, unreachable. Things worsened over the next few days. Willow stopped eating. She rarely spoke. She cried when no one was watching. The children felt confused and terrified. Michael tried everything he could. Doctors, therapists, even attempting to force Drew out of their lives, but the harm was already done. Willow has been carrying too much for too long. After a silent breakfast and a lengthy, tense silence at the kitchen table, Michael eventually called. Ferncliff wasn't his first pick. It was not even on his list. Willow's therapist suggested it after she stood in the corridor for nearly 40 minutes, staring at the same painting and mumbling to herself. They couldn't risk another collapse, especially with the kids in the house and her mind whirling out of control. Willow remained calm as the automobile approached Ferncliff. She did not speak. She simply went out and walked through the gates, as if accepting a prison sentence. Michael wanted to think that this would help. That time, structure, and distance from Drew's influence would allow her to restore the parts of herself she had lost. Even as he watched her vanish within those walls, Something gnawed at him. Remorse, anxiety, and doubt. Did he wait too long? Ferncliff's clean walls and subdued colors felt like the backdrop to a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Willow drifted silently through the intake procedure. Nurses spoke in soothing tones, asking questions she scarcely noticed. She was given a sparse and cold room. The window did not open. The bed was overly firm. Her clothing was switched for neutral scrubs. At night, she stared at the ceiling, reliving every experience that had led her here. She thought of Wiley and Amelia, and how she used to sing to them. About how Michael would throw his arms around her and whisper that everything will be fine. And then she remembered Drew. How his voice turned kindness into manipulation. How his schemes spread like poison vines, engulfing every aspect of her life. She despised him for it. She hated herself more for allowing it to happen. Days have gone. Therapy sessions blurred together. She learned to speak what the employees wanted to hear. She talked about limits, trust, and trauma. But something deep inside remained cracked. One afternoon she was given a letter. From Michael. He had written to her every day, even when she had not responded. She cautiously unfurled the paper, ready for pain. However, the words were full of affection. With hope. With reminders of who she was before everything. He wrote, "You are still the strongest person I know. You are still the lady who confronted death yet chose to live. I have not forgotten who you are, Willow. Please do not forget either." She cried for the first time in several weeks. Not because she was scared, but perhaps she wasn't as lost as she felt. Healing wasn't going to be quick. Ferncliff wasn't a miracle cure. It was a stop, a breather, a place to go away from the carnage. Willow didn't trust herself anymore. But in the silent intervals between the echoes of Drew's voice in her thoughts and the subtle rustling of trees outside the barred window, she felt something flicker once more. The remembrance of who she once was. A mother. A wife. A survivor. Not a victim of Drew's machinations. Not simply a Ferncliff patient. But a woman whose narrative is still unfolding. And though she didn't know when or how, she determined that she'd leave those walls on her own terms. Not broken. Not defeated. But she was prepared to safeguard her peace, her children, and her future, no matter what Drew tried next. Because this time she'd be expecting it. And she would never allow him or anyone else to take her voice again. Willow stood on the balcony of the Quartermain home, arms clasped tightly across her chest, lost in meditation as a cold breeze blew through her long hair. The previous several months had been a roller coaster of emotions. Love, betrayal, sorrow, and fleeting moments of happiness. But something had changed in her, which she couldn't quite describe. There was a strain in the air that even the estate's quiet couldn't alleviate, and it all started when she overheard Drew's chat the previous night. It wasn't supposed to be that way. She wasn't supposed to be strolling past the den, and she certainly wasn't supposed to hear Drew talking to someone about removing Michael from the path. She initially thought she had misunderstood, but the more she remained behind the door, the more the words imprinted themselves into her consciousness with terrifying clarity. Drew had stated that Michael's judgment was clouded, that he was a risk to the family's business and personal safety, and that something had to be done before Sunny's opponents exploited Michael's perceived vulnerability. Willow's heartbeat had decreased. Is this twisted allegiance to Sunny? Or is Drew's fixation with power getting out of hand? She did not sleep that night. She remained upright, gaze locked on the ceiling, each breath short. Michael had been everything for her. He stood by her side throughout her cancer diagnosis, treatment uncertainty, and gradual recovery. The father of her children, the guy she entrusted with her life. And now he was unwittingly stuck between ambition and legacy, a pawn in Drew's power game. What worried her the most wasn't Michael's threat, but her own doubt. How could she have missed it? How could she have welcomed Drew back into their lives so easily following his release from prison, believing in his redemption story? Willow's mind raced as the morning sun entered the corridor. She needed answers, but most importantly, she needed to protect Michael and the children. She didn't want to believe Drew would go so far as to really harm Michael, but desperation transforms people. She noticed it in Drew's eyes during previous meetings. He discussed loyalty, the protection of the family's riches and legacy. However, it never felt like genuine worry, it felt like justification. Justification for dominating everything and everyone around him. Later that morning, Drew unexpectedly arrived at the estate. Willow stiffened as she saw him stride across the lobby, his tone upbeat and unsuitable for someone holding so much darkness inside. She mustered a pleasant grin and allowed him inside, but her instincts told her to be cautious. As he settled into the living room, she kept a careful eye on him, never leaving his face. "We need to talk," she finally murmured, her tone colder than she meant. Drew tilted his head with apprehension. "Is everything all right?" "Not really." She sat across from him, legs crossed, her stare unwavering. "I overheard you last night." Drew froze for a little period, confirming her darkest thoughts. He tried to recover by putting on a false grin. "What did I overhear exactly?" Willow did not play games. "You claimed Michael was a liability, that something needed to be done." "Drew, what did you mean with that?" His smile faded. The mask fell off, and for a brief moment she saw the guy beneath, conflicted, cornered but not repentant. "Willow, you were not meant to hear that. It's not what you think. So explain it," she said, her voice rising slightly. "Because what I heard sounded threatening. Are you plotting something against him?" "No," he yelled, then quickly lowered his voice, peering down the hallway to ensure no one else was hearing. "Oh, of course not. I'd never injure Michael. But he's lost his perspective. Michael has been attempting to fill shoes that were never meant to be his since Sonny began slipping. He's growing careless, making decisions without asking his family." Willow narrowed her gaze. "So that excuse is what? Replacing him? Silencing him? Making moves behind his back?" "I am trying to save him," Drew growled, pushing closer, desperation seeping into his voice. "Do you know what's coming? Sonny's empire has broken, and vultures are hovering. If we don't move now, if Michael continues to act as if he has control, everything will fall apart. I just want him to give up his power fantasies before someone is killed." Willow rose up, her hands quivering. "What happens if he doesn't step down, Drew? So what happens next? What are you planning to do?" His quiet sufficed as a response. She backed away gradually, wrath and dread flowing through her. "You don't get to make that decision. You have already lost your path. This is not about protecting Michael. It is about controlling him. You do not trust him. And that makes you the threat." Drew stood, his face blanched. "Willow, please. Do not do this. You have to understand, I adore this family. I love you. I simply wanted to protect all of you." She shook her head. "I didn't intend for it to go this far. I am going to Michael. And if you come near this house or our children again without permission, I vow I'll call the cops." His expression fell as she turned away from him and went straight to her phone. Her hands were shaking, but she was able to dial Michael. He answered the second call, his voice drowsy but concerned. "What's wrong?" "We need to talk," she replied, her voice cracking. "Drew isn't who we thought he was." An hour later, Michael arrived to the Quartermain home, and Willow met him at the door, tears in her eyes. She told him everything, every word she overheard, every detail of Drew's defense, and every impulse she had tried to repress. Michael's jaw tightened with each statement, and by the time she finished, his expression was unreadable. "I knew he was pushing boundaries," Michael admitted gently. "I just didn't know how far." Willow agreed. "He believes he is protecting you. But he isn't. He is attempting to remove your role, Michael. He wants to make decisions for all of us." Michael looked down, pain flashing on his face. "I trusted him. After everything, I honestly hoped he'd changed." "He hasn't," Willow said quietly. "And now you have to decide what to do." Michael was still for a long time before answering. "He won't like it, but I'm done pretending we're on the same page. If he wants a war for control, he'll get it. But I'm not going to allow him put our kids in the middle." Willow felt both relieved and worried. She was aware of how a conflict between Michael and Drew may play out. She was aware of the scars that internal family fighting may leave behind. But she also realized Michael wasn't alone anymore. They would confront this together as they did with everything else. Drew made his final appearance that night. He stood on the porch, eyes sunken and stance heavy with despair. Willow opened the door barely halfway. "I just want to talk," he explained. Michael appeared behind her. "Then say what you came to say." Drew gulped hard. I apologize. I went too far. I wasn't sure how to stop. I was just thinking, if I could safeguard what Sunny built, maybe I could fix everything I messed up. You can't fix this, Michael said, his voice cold. You broke it. You're not welcome here anymore. Stay away from my family. Drew gave a reluctant nod, Michael's resolve stinging more than any insult. He turned and went away without saying anything, the weight of his own ambition finally catching up with him. Willow softly closed the door behind him, her heart aching. She wanted to believe Drew's redemption was still possible, but for the time being survival was more important. For her, Michael, and the children they were raising in a world that had grown far more frightening than it should have been. Willow sank into Michael's chest, his arms tightening around her, as the house fell silent. The storm hadn't passed yet, but at least they were facing it with open eyes. And it made all the difference.